Hi, my name is Misty with Ralston Law. Thank you so much for joining me. So, I'm starting a new journey, a new series of ways to make estate planning more fun. Okay. So, I've gone to many CLEs over the years, and a lot of times, the one TV show that most estate planning attorneys are going to talk about is The Brady Bunch. And it's a great show to talk about it because it's a blended family, and you have Mike and you have Carol, and they both had children. They brought them together, and what's going to happen, and blah. And that's great. But there's so many other TV shows out there that no one really discusses. And I admit I am a TV holic. I love old TV shows, new TV shows. I have to have TV going on in the background when I'm working. I like the noise. And especially since opening my own law firm, I can find something to talk about with it seems like every show that comes on. So I decided to have a little fun with myself, with my viewers, with my friends and family, my clients, and I'm going to every week portray a different television show and discuss it. Now I'm going to be warning you. Please, 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 please understand there will be spoilers. So if you've never watched the show, just be prepared. You're going to get a lot of spoilers because you're going to find out things that happen within the show. Um, but the real main point is to show that it doesn't depend on uh, what your family life is like. And we're going to look at tons of different families. When it comes down to it, everyone really does need to have some sort of plan in place for their families. So keep in mind, if you have any ideas, please comment or send me a message. I would love to have more ideas for different TV shows that I can discuss. It's going to take me 58 weeks to get through 58, and that will take us to the last week of December next year. And that's my goal, to talk about a different show every week and to hear what you guys think about that as well. So please subscribe to the YouTube page so you find out what days they get released, and come along this journey with me. And I hope you enjoy it. So that's my introduction. The first show I'm going to talk about should not be a surprise to many of you. It is my all-time favorite television show, and it's Scarecrow and Mrs. King. So Scarecrow and Mrs. King premiered in 1983, went to 1987, and the premise basically is a divorced housewife from the suburbs of Washington, D.C. She lives with her mother. She has two young boys. Her husband is an attorney her ex-husband is an attorney that lives in Africa and works for the government. And she's basically on her own raising these two children. A crazy meeting at a train station, and she gets swept up into the life of espionage and saving the government from the evils of Russia in the Cold War. And she does this with the help of a bachelor for life. You could tell he comes from money, cynical, never going to work with a partner again, spy by the name of Lee Stetson. So there's a couple things that we need to realize when we're looking at the show through the lens of estate planning. And there's a few different characters that we're going to discuss. So the first character, of course, is Amanda King. Amanda is in the midst of a sandwich generation. And she's probably a lot like many, many people and many, many families of today. She's divorced. She's amicably divorced. Her and her husband still get along well. But she did not want to pick up her family and move to a third world country in Africa. And her husband had dreams of doing that after law school. So they tried to make it work. It didn't. They're still friends. He's a great dad. He just doesn't see the kids because he lives so far away. They apparently stay in touch through letters and things like that. And when he comes home, he sees the children. She has her mother living with her. So she's taking care of her mom. She's taking care of two young children. She has a mortgage. She drives a station wagon. She coupons clips to make ends meet. She's that basic suburban mom. And even before she gets involved with the agency and Lee Stetson and that whole new world that she finds herself being dragged and running towards, She needs an estate plan because she's just gotten divorced. Her divorce has only been final about a year. Um, their father, as I said, is in Africa, so it's not like they can contact him if anything should happen to her and have him be home in, a few hours. It's going to take some time. Her mother does not drive in the beginning of the series, so it's not like her mother can just jump in the car if the kids need to be picked up or if something happens to Amanda. And a lot of the pressure is on her to take care of her family. She needs to make sure her kids are taken care of, that her mom is taken care of. She needs to make sure that the house's mortgage is paid and all the bills are paid. And at this point in the beginning of the show, she's looking for part-time work. She's dating someone. She's just gotten back out into the dating world. Her mom is pushing her into a relationship and to find a new husband and a new life. Thinking about it is in the 80s. Mom comes from that time period where, you basically have a husband. So I think that's what she's looking at for her daughter. And she just wants her daughter to be happy and safe and in a very stable environment. So even before Amanda gets involved with the agency, she already has a need for a kids protection plan who is going to be short-term guardians and long-term guardians for her children. One of the reasons she got divorced was she didn't want her kids living with their dad. She didn't want the whole family living with their dad in Africa. So that's something she would have to discuss with her ex-husband, Joe, as to who can take care of the kids and keep them in the States. The boys in the beginning of the show are 9 and 11. So it's not like they're going to be out on their own relatively soon. She's most likely receiving some sort of alimony or some sort of settlement. That's how she's paying for her and child support, being able to pay for the mortgage and such on the to take care of the kids. But she's going to need to start looking for work. And getting work, she most likely will get some sort of life insurance. So she's going to need to look at having some sort of trust for the kids if something were to happen to her. And make sure that the children are provided for as well. She's going to have to look for who's going to be her power of attorney, who's going to be her healthcare power of attorney. Again, she lives with her mom, but her mom is older, so we don't know if that's really the person that she would want to name. She also doesn't have any siblings. She has an aunt that she talks about, but it doesn't seem like she has family that's real close. I think her aunt lives in Maine. So she's that typical mom that's going to have to look outside her immediate family to close friends that will be able to take care of her children in an emergency, at least until they could figure out what's going to happen with dad. So right off the bat, we know Amanda at least needs a plan. Then she gets involved with the agency, and she, throughout the course of the 4 years, is kidnapped, shot at, chased down, drugged, a variety of things. Always in trouble. That's the whole meaning of the show. Something happens, she gets in trouble. Lee rescues her and yada yada, happy ever after. She's fine. So we move forward, and eventually the two fall in love. Lee and her get married, and it's a secret marriage. They don't tell their she doesn't tell her family. They don't tell anybody at work, which is going to add an even stranger dynamic for estate planning for the two of them. Now, what we know about Lee is we know that Lee, his parents died when he was young. So I think when he sits down with an attorney, then he's going to have to delve into a little bit of that. It seemed that he had some sort of trust fund that was most likely left to him by his parents. And his uncle, who raised him, strong military man, very strict, likely acted as the trustee to ensure that the money stayed safe and that Lee didn't blow it. We do know from watching the show that money is not an issue for him. He's a government employee, so he's probably not making tons of money, even as a spy. However, his lifestyle tends to make you realize that he has some money put away. And then by the end of the season, we have the two of them married, as I said. and trying to figure out how to make this marriage work while keeping the family safe. So I can imagine, if I'm thinking at the end of the year, they're going to come in and Lee is most likely going to have done some background check on whoever they're going to meet with. Amanda most likely saw on Facebook a reel or an advertisement about personal family lawyer and liked the whole relationship building. Lee probably thought that might be a good idea because they're using the same person for everything. And after doing his due diligence and background checks to make sure that the person can be trusted, they most likely would have met with a personal family lawyer like myself. And what would their issues be? First of all, privacy. For them, privacy is going to be a really important goal. They don't want anyone to know that they're married. They don't want anyone to know that they're even together. So that the Russians or the Chinese or whoever the bad guys were during the Cold War in that episode wouldn't target Amanda or her family. So they would want to keep everything very private, which would be a reason why they would want to trust, so that things wouldn't have to go through probate. Most likely with the trust, they wouldn't want to name it the King Trust or the Stetson Trust. It would most likely have some sort of code name because that's what they're used to dealing with. Spiderweb, Stemwinder, these are all names that they've used on the show. But most likely it would be some sort of code name that the two of them would decide upon. Amanda would definitely want to have a kids protection plan for both of her kids. And that kids protection plan would include how she wants the children to be raised, what's important to her. She wouldn't want them moved during the school year. She'd want them to probably stay in the same area, close to their friends and and schoolmates. She would want to make sure that they kept a relationship with their grandmother as well as their dad. She would want to make sure that they were well cared for medically, so that there was a medical power of attorney for them, so that whoever is with them is able to get them the health care that they need, especially if Amanda didn't get home one night to pick them up. And that would definitely be a worry for them. What happens if they don't come home one night and Dottie's away, her mother, and they can't get picked up from school, or they can't get picked up from Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts? That would be something that Amanda had already experienced, and it would be a concern to her and Lee, and it would be something that they would be interested in making sure they have for their children, that they wouldn't have gotten with possibly any other attorney that they had talked to. Most likely, they probably would have maybe named Billy Melrose as a short-term guardian. Lee may have said, look, we don't have that many close friends that understand what we're doing, so maybe Francine or that Leatherneck, two of their co-workers, maybe someone that they could name that would pick up the children in the case of an emergency. But again, the kids aren't going to know these people, so how comfortable are they going to feel? So it's going to be very interesting to guide Lee and Amanda into finding these people that they trust because of their line of work, without telling their personal family attorney their line of work, and ensuring that they have everything in place if God forbid should happen to the two of them. Moving forward to that, they would also want to trust because that's something Lee was used to. It sounded like in the show, with the amount of money he had and comments that he made and the way he traveled and his Corvettes and his fancy cars and his fancy food and his lifestyle, that he had more money, and like I said, than just what he was working with. The fact that his parents were both spies, the fact that his parents both worked for the government, it was likely they both had pensions, life insurance policies, and that all of that would be taken care of. Lee had mentioned at one point that he had taken care of some of his beneficiaries. So that definitely probably would be something that Lee would be very open to doing. I could also see the two of them discussing leaving some money for the nursing home that they are familiar with. And the nursing home that a lot of the past spies would go to, they would want to make sure that some sort of endowment or gift was given, maybe for security or protection for those groups. So we would have that as well. The interesting thing would be wanting to ensure that they let people know that they've been named. So we normally have fiduciary letters that we can provide to our clients and let them know and do a training with the people that they name as their executors, their power of attorneys, their guardians. And it's going to be very difficult to help guide Lee and Amanda into some of these things when at the same time they have not revealed the relationship that they have, the marriage that they've recently done, that they're trying to do that to keep the family safe. But at the same time, there's also legal issues for keeping the family safe. You know, they could name Amanda as a beneficiary for his life insurance policy. The issue would be if she's a spouse, she's a class A beneficiary. If she's not, now she's a friend, so she's going to be taxed. So therefore, again, the option is going to be to go into a trust, so he doesn't really have to explain why. The boys are going to be getting older, and as the boys get older, they're going to need young adult plans, their own power of attorneys, their own medical documents, their own what happens, because we don't know if the boys are ever going to be caught in the crossfire. There were times that the boys were in close proximity without even knowing what was going on, and we needed to worry about that. And then we have Dottie. Dottie, the mother-in-law, living with Amanda, would most likely be living with Lee and Amanda if they ever did disclose and come forward with their relationship. And you have Lee's uncle, who may at some point need additional help and care, and worrying about putting them into nursing homes or assisted living complexes, and what's going to be best for them. So there's a lot of things in a show that on its face can be very difficult, can be very intense. But the one good thing, if Lee and Amanda had gone to a personal family lawyer, is they have someone that they're going to be able to develop a relationship with. And that was one thing that, as cut off emotionally, that Lee would pretend that he was very big on loyalty. And when you were his friend or someone that he cared about, he did anything for you, and he would die for you, and he would give up his life. And that's just how he was. And you see him every week that he would go to the retirement center to see some of the old retirees, and they would break him bread. His relationship with Emily Farnsworth, and how close that they were. And he had been hurt so many times and lost so many times, he started to build up a wall around his heart that Amanda was able to break down. But Lee is a very honorable, very loyal person. So he would need to be able to feel comfortable. He would need to know that the family lawyer he was working with, the attorney that he was working with, was someone he could talk to when he needed to, come to for advice when he needed to, would keep all of their information close to the vest, would be there to let the families know what's going on. And honestly, he may even feel comfortable with the fact that he gets to do the legacy interviews. I believe that's something Amanda would have loved, but I think Lee would have liked it as well, in that he could finally tell everything. I could see Lee being like, if I'm gone, I want them to know what happened. I don't want them to live in the world that he did, where he just thought his mom and dad were in a car accident, and it took decades later for him to find out the truth about his parents' death. I don't think he would want that for Jamie and Philip. I think he would want Jamie and Philip to know the truth, so that they would have more disclosure, more closure with the death of their mom if something were to happen. So I really do think that the personal family lawyer program, the way it's set up, the fact that we have our kids protection plan, that we have our legacy interviews, that it's a relationship that will last not only their lives, but to be there to guide their families afterwards is something that I think not only Amanda would feel is such an asset, but I think it would make Lee feel better about talking and opening up and letting the personal family lawyer know what was going on. So as you can see, there was a lot that they would have to think about. There's a lot that they would have to do. Once the plan was drafted, they would come in and they would do their signing. It would be interesting to see who they would have as witnesses. I imagine it would just be the personal family attorney and maybe office staff or someone that they felt comfortable having come in, because they would want to make sure that it was someone that they vetted. And at the same time, Lee's trying to keep things under wraps with the agency. So it's not like he's going to be pulling Harry or any of his friends in to sign the documents. And same for Amanda. So then they would get their legacy interview. Coming to me, they would get their legacy Trapper Keeper box where all their documents would be on it. Most likely, Lee, being who he is, would have some sort of hole in the wall or safe or something that he would keep these documents in, which worries me that would they even really begin to be able to find them. So it may even be something that he asks the personal family lawyer either to hold or to have a letter, a sealed envelope that would allow Philip and Jamie to be able to find the documents when needed. Because I don't see him wanting them to just be in a closet or a bookshelf. He's going to want to make sure that if someone broke into his home, broke into Amanda's home, that this information, as detailed as we try to be, and with all of the account records and everything in one place, which is great for after someone passes to have that information, for two spies, probably not something they're going to want to have lying around. So there are a lot of different things that we would have to consider when it comes to working with two spies that don't have immediate family, siblings. They were both only children, and dealing with not just their personal lives, but how their professional lives affect their personal lives. As they move on, we don't know what would have happened with Lee and Amanda. We don't know if they would have left the agency and started their own security business, maybe. Then we would have had to talk to them about creating successor plans, LLC programs, business organizations. How are they going to fund those? How are they going to protect those? Are they going to put their interests of those businesses into their trust? Are they going to continue working for the government in different roles? Are they going to move up within the agency? Are they just going to simply retire and buy a ranch and live on the ranch and just hope for the best? We don't know what would have happened. And hopefully they would have lived long lives and watched the boys grow up. But they definitely would have had to come in and make sure that everything is updated. We want to make sure that people they cared about were taken care of. And we don't know if when Lee's uncle and Amanda's mom pass, if they receive inheritances that they would also then need to take care of. Mrs. Farnsworth may have left Lee and Amanda something. She was very close to them. So there's a lot of different options. So that is Scarecrow and Mrs. King. That is Amanda needing her own estate plan prior to even moving and meeting Lee and moving into that lifestyle, and then the lifestyle that they would have afterwards. Scarecrow and Mrs. King, again, ran from 1983 to 1987. It is streaming on different programs. I'm not sure which one right now, but I know I've seen it. So if you get a chance to watch it, it is one of the best shows that's ever hit television, starring Kate Jackson and Bruce Boxleitner. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Is there anything else that you think that would have also been a concern or an issue or something we would have had to discuss with Lee and Amanda as we were doing their estate plan? So this is my first one. The next one I'm going to do next week, I believe, is going to be 8 is Enough. 8 is Enough was back in the 70s. A little tidbit of information, which I always love to talk about. The pilot episode, David, the oldest son of the family, was played by this crazy young man who left the show after the first episode, decided he was going to try something else and was able to be relieved. And then Grant Goodeve took over the role of David and stayed with the show for its run. The gentleman who played in the initial episode or pilot episode and then left to do a weird space opera, not even know if it was going to be anything, was Mark Hamill. So if you get a chance, it is on Tubi. If you get a chance before next week to watch it, we'll discuss the fact that only 4 episodes in did we decide. Only 4 episodes in, sorry, I lost my screen there for a second. Only 4 episodes in, the actress who was playing the mother, Joan, passed away. And Dad became a widower, raising 8 children, and then moving on to getting remarried to his second wife, Abby. So, hope that you've enjoyed this. Hope that this is going to be a fun journey for both of us, for all of us. I shouldn't say both, but all of us. And again, send me your ideas, send me your thoughts, send me your discussions. I'd love to hear more. Thanks so much. Bye.